Welcome to This Explainer. We're stepping straight into the shadows today, so I want you to picture me, just for a second, channeling the darkly whimsical, maybe slightly cynical persona of the verdant sage. Because let's be honest, we humans absolutely love a good tragedy, don't we? Today we're diving deep into a grim, dark, gothic fable about the human condition itself. It's a philosophical deep dive that takes those classic Greek tragedies you thought you knew and completely twists them into a massive commentary on existence. This isn't just a story, it's a mirror held right up to our deepest existential fears, and we're going to explore exactly what happens when every single thing you know is suddenly reduced to ash.
So let me ask you a really unsettling question. If the universe erased your chains tomorrow, would you actually beg for them back? It sounds crazy, right? But this hits right at the core of Nietzschean philosophy. It's about this sheer terror of absolute freedom. Imagine a reality where all inherent meaning is just dead, leaving behind this terrifying, completely blank slate. We all love to think we want to be totally free, but what if our identities are so entirely wrapped up in our daily struggles, our debts, our masters, that without them we're just utterly lost? Keep that thought in the back of your mind as we unpack this.
Now, to really grasp this idea of a rebirth, we have to understand the rot first. There's a figure in our fable called the Cold Observer, and he describes this previous state as a terminal decay witnessed across an eternity of dying constellations. In our story, the old world is essentially like rotting fruit. It represents a totally failing moral order. Picture a universe that is just choking on its own history, its inherited debts, and all these shiny golden cages it built for itself. The decay was so terminal, so baked into the fabric of existence, that a cosmic reset wasn't just an option, it was desperately needed. The world was practically begging for an ending.
So Section 1, the failing moral order and the terminal rot of the old world. Our grim story kicks off in a universe that is completely suffocating under the weight of its own past. We have to realize that the universe before the reset was absolutely not some lost paradise. It was a prison that had simply run its course. Humanity was completely bound by structures they had built with their own hands, which turned their existence into this endless, suffocating cycle. Here's a quick roadmap for this explainer. We're going to move through 4 distinct phases today. We start with the terminal rot of that failing order, then we move into the ash of destructive mercy, we face the existential struggle of the blank slate, and finally, we attempt to reach the bloom of radical autonomy. Moving right along to Section 2, the Starfinder's destructive mercy and the absolute zero of cosmic annihilation. Into this rotting, decaying world arrives a cosmic force known as the Starfinder. And let me be clear, the Starfinder doesn't show up with a gentle, healing light. Not at all. It brings a destructive breath that literally turns everything into a sprawling field of black ash. But here's the twist. This indifferent nihilism was actually a paradoxical mercy. It was a massive cosmic reset meant to wipe the slate perfectly clean, completely erasing all those external structures and identities that had kept humanity in prison. And that total erasure leaves us with a concept called radical autonomy. Let's define it. It's a terrifying freedom resulting from a cosmic reset, where all external structures and excuses are erased, leaving individuals to face the crushing weight of their own choices. Think about it. When the Starfinder completely clears the board, you suddenly have no masters left to blame. You have no laws to hide behind and no debts to define your daily grind. You are completely 100% untethered. And as you'll see, the human spirit finds this kind of absolute freedom absolutely horrifying. Which perfectly sets up Section 3, the fear of frozen autonomy, or clinging to the ashes of the past. Now we're going to shift into the parables. These are reimagined Greek tragedies that show us exactly how tragically humanity reacts when handed that crushing blank slate. Just consider the tragic irony of our condition here. Let's look at Theseus first. We know him as the guy trapped in the labyrinth. Well, when the labyrinth gets turned into a field of black ash, does he run out toward the sun? No, he doesn't. Instead, he starts tracing the lines of the old walls in the soot with his fingers. He finds this broken shackle, this totally toxic illusion of his past struggle, and he actually polishes it, weeping for the vinegar of his old cages. It's a brilliantly pathetic image, honestly. He prefers the familiar rot of his maze over the terrifying freedom to just begin anew. And then there's Niobe. When the cosmic reset strips away her entire identity as a mother, she absolutely refuses to brave the frost to find a new value. She is so terrified of her own autonomy that she weaves a shroud of gray dust around her own heart, choosing to become a literal statue of frozen soot. She proves right then and there that she would rather be an inert monument to her grief than actually face the crushing weight of her own choices. Let's look at Section 4, Forging New Golden Cages, and the human will to submit. Because while some people, like Niobe, just freeze, others frantically scramble to rebuild their prisons. It really seems like we possess this profound, dull-spirited will to submit to authority, just to escape the heavy burden of authoring our own lives. This desperate need to submit just gets deeper. Look at Midas. In the ruins, he finds this pulsing green thistle, a plant fueled by the verdant spark of becoming. But instead of using that spark to author a new meaning for his life, what does he do? He crowns the thistle the new law and literally forces everyone to bleed for it. They are rebuilding the golden cages of the old kingdom out of thorns, basically preferring the sharp, familiar sting of a new master over the radical autonomy of the void. They build a monument to their own insignificance. Then we have Odysseus. He reaches the shore of this great cosmic silence and completely ignores the beautiful violet blooming in the ash. Instead, he huddles around this hollow reed that whispers comfortable lies about a sky that cares. He and his men literally trade their radical autonomy for a comforting illusion, a song that promises them a master who never actually existed. This takes us to Section 5, The Observer and the Sage, a philosophical dialectic in the void. So how does the universe actually interpret this tragic comedy of human submission? To figure that out, we need to introduce a massive clash of cosmic perspectives. We find ourselves caught between two really defining voices here. On one side, we have the cold observer, who represents absolute indifferent nihilism. The observer is the one who offered that paradox of mercy, the clean void, just to strip away all our excuses. But when the observer watches humans instantly start building new chains, he coldly concludes that our essence was always just that of a slave. Now, in stark contrast, we have the verdant sage. This voice represents the cynical vitality of life itself. The sage actively mocks humanity. He offers us the green light of becoming, the verdant spark, and then just sits back and watches us twist it into new shrouds and monuments of pain. And honestly, the sage is right to laugh. We carry our prisons in our very souls. We prove time and again that even when the universe is totally silent, we'll just invent a hollow reed to tell us what to believe. But let's move to Section 6, the violet of radical autonomy, hope blooming in the black ash. Because, our fable doesn't actually have to end in total despair. We've looked at the failure, we've seen the rot, and we've analyzed the tragic choices. Now we have to look at the alternative, the ultimate symbol of existential freedom and rebirth that's just been quietly waiting in the soot all along. The real question you have to ask yourself here is this: are we truly condemned to be free? When the cosmic indifference of the Starfinder clears the entire board, we suddenly have no choice but to choose. We are quite literally forced to create our own inherent meaning from scratch. Because if we don't, we are absolutely doomed to repeat our failures, spending our lives polishing our broken shackles and bleeding for thistles. So here is the massive takeaway I want you to get from this explainer. You basically face a choice between two paths. The first path is the hollow reed, the path of Odysseus. It represents those comfortable lies, the cozy illusion of a caring sky, and that cowardly will to just submit to a master who isn't even there. But the alternative is the violet. This is the true symbol of hope and emerging life after total destruction. The violet represents the terrifying, awe-inspiring power to actually author your own future. Embracing the violet means fully accepting your radical autonomy. It means standing right there in the black ash of a destroyed world and deciding entirely on your own to bloom anyway. And yet, the challenge remains. I'm going to leave you with this incredibly haunting final provocation from the cold observer. You are merely ghosts looking for a new script to haunt. I want you to look at your own life for a second. Are the structures around you actually empowering you? Or are they just shiny golden cages you've built to avoid the terrifying freedom of a blank slate? Are you tending to the violet, or are you just listening to the hollow reed? It's a really heavy thought to carry with you today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I genuinely hope this sparks your desire to go out and author your own meaning. Catch you next time.